the golden age of WWE. Larger than life of fantasy, step in the ring, feel history. Welcome to the golden WWE.
From being licked by the Bushwhackers to the mega powers exploding, we're talking about WrestleMania 5 today. Mr. Mooney, how you doing today?
Well, you know, the rash still is there, but it never quite went away from that experience. And we're going to get into it with my pals from Down Under, the Bushwhackers, but so much going on. And I want to apologize. It sounds a little cavey. Is that a word? I don't know. I just made it up. But I'm in my new digs, Steve, which I'm really excited about. You know, I've been talking your ear off about it. But
yes, you have
made a big move. And I know it's hard to, because it's just this, but now I'm setting up my own studio so that we can just keep creating more great content for everybody out there. We have so many big plans. Isn't that true, Mr. Paul?
Too many big plans to talk about right now, but we're talking about WrestleMania 5, which is your first WrestleMania. And I really want to talk about that because so far we've had 4 WrestleManias. Now here's the 5th one. You're here the first time. What are your feelings going into this? Are you excited? Are you nervous? What was happening inside you?
Oh, yeah. I was a wreck, I think. And, you know, it wasn't like it was really my first rodeo as far as these big events.
Yeah.
But this was WrestleMania. And it was, at the time, you know, just this gigantic spectacle. And the fact that I was going to be part of it was, it was... I really tried to keep my head down, just get, you know, do what they tell you. Don't do any unforced errors if you can help it. And, but it did hit me that, you know, this was just the greatest event I'd ever been a part of. And it was so huge, so many matches and so many involved in it. And even though it was, in a sense, you know, really a small venue where we had this in New Jersey on the boardwalk, in Atlantic City, but it was going to be, you know, the pay-per-view audience was out there. We knew that was going to be millions of people watching. So it was gigantic. And it was, even after everything I'd done at that point, I have to, you know, looking back, I really was overwhelmed. And we had, you know, a lot happening. They had seen me do stuff outside of the backstage thing, so they wanted me to do more of that. And that's always, you know, a crazy situation because you don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of things that are out of your control when you're out there in the crowd and doing that kind of thing. And but I was excited. I mean, don't get me wrong at all that I was thrilled. But you know, there's that anxiety, and you just hope you never let them see you sweat, as they say.
Well, you have a kind of a man on the street feel for this entire WrestleMania. So the meetings before this Mania, are they describing, all right, Tony Schiavone, you're going to be backstage doing some interviews, but Mooney, we're going to send you out there in the wild. Like, what are your thoughts about that? Because you're right. These are elements you cannot control. Someone jumps in front of you, they're in front of you. You can't, it's not backstage where the Barbarian's going to actually cooperate with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, it was kind of that whole persona that Vince wanted me to have. He wanted that, you know, man in the street, a journalist out there just taking in what's happening. And so this is where I was really starting to, I guess, come into my own in the sense of what my place was with the WWF, WWE. And so I really took that, you know, to heart because, you know, Tony coming in, I've heard people who have asked me before, you know, you guys intimidated or did you think Tony was there to come in and take your job? I mean, they always would say things like that, but I never, ever looked at it like that. And then also, you know, Tony was basically a wrestling announcer, a true wrestling announcer. And if there was anybody who would be concerned or something, it would be somebody from the announce team. That wasn't my lane. So bringing him in and having him become part of the broadcast team to me was great because it gave me more opportunities too.
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong, doing backstage interviews was certainly a great part of what I got to be, you know, involved in. But the fact that they started to, experiment and have me go out and do things like that, that they trusted me to go out there and do that, and I would create some good content for the pay-per-view was, it was a big confidence boost for me.
Yeah, there is so much going on here because it's all hands on deck. You got Gorilla and Jess commentary, you got Tony Schiavone backstage, you got Mean Gene, you got you in the field, Lord Alfred Hayes. They keep cutting to him when he was part of the WrestleMania brunch. He was part of the 5K run with Mr. Fuji. Like, everyone is involved here, but I really want to take a deep dive into what you're doing, because the first time we see you here, you're interviewing, you're in the crowd talking about how the Bushwhackers just beat the fabulous Rougeaus, and they manhandled you. I took a video of it. I started laughing. I sent it to you last night, and they're grabbing you, pulling at your nose, licking you. What is that like? I know in today's world, we're so cautious of saliva because of COVID beforehand. But in 1989, they're like, let's just get in there, get in your ears.
Well, it was part of their shtick.
I know.
I knew they were going to mess with me. They told me they were going to come down, but to the extent of it, and I know that Vince just loved telling him, like, really give it to him, just go. And it would be, it wasn't just, that it just wouldn't end. I mean, they would come back and they're licking my head, and then, oh, we got to get better than that, like that. And it was just crazy that that's what they were, doing. And hold on, I've got some wild animals. I don't know if that's.
It's not the Bushwhackers back to lick you?
No, they're not. But the thing about, they're coming down, and you see the shot, which is a great one, that the fact that they've got
those dogs.
Boys.
They're fans.
That's going to be a jump cut. But the fact that you see them, the shot that they had was just so good, because it's that big, long carpet shot down the way, and you see them coming, and I'm interacting with the fans or whatever, and then you just see them coming, and then they go by, and then they just grab me. It's like maul me. And I got along really well with the Bushwhackers. I love those guys. We had kind of a kinship because they were rugby players, and I played rugby in college.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of got me in with them, because we would talk rugby all the time. So, we had a really good relationship, and for them to do that, it was like they knew, okay, Mooney will be fun. And I ad-libbed from some lines there. I think I said to Gorilla, did you ever have a dog that really liked you?
Yes.
And then as I'm wrapping it up, I say, guys, I'm going to go find a towel and a brush, because my hair was all askew. But it was, it was very cool. I mean, to be part of that gimmick. Would I have preferred not to have a man licking my face? It's not the greatest experience, but it's a bit that people still tell me about, how funny they thought that was.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, I knew that in the back, and when they told the boys, and I know Pat and Vince, they had this bizarre sense of humor. I'm sure they told them, give it to them, like just go over the top with it, and they did.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yes. And Steve, before we really dive into this, and because what made me think about this event, you said Alfred, being involved in the brunch, and they had the 5K run. And this was one of those events where, it was really, you see it today, everything's a fan fest. They have all kinds of stuff going on with these events that take place. But to me, it was ahead of its time. You had never really seen this become, so much of a multiple events. Days prior, people would, how do we get people already involved instead of just the day of the event? And so we had all of these, the panels with the guys, and we had that 5K run, and then we had, booths set up, and they had vendors come in. And so it was really, I think, the beginning, and maybe some of this had gone on before with other outfits. I don't know, but I just remember it being this gigantic event that wasn't just WrestleMania. It wasn't just the event, the wrestling event. And, I did some stuff with a bunch of things. I part of my main job there was hosting things. I hosted panels. I went down to meet with fans, and all kinds of stuff. And I was part of that run too, the 5K thing. I remember that there was this box in my hotel room, and it had, this is before anybody wore this kind of stuff, and they had like leggings. I remember the first thing I said when I went down there, I was in front of this crowd, and it was, pretty chilly that day. And I said, why do I feel like I forgot my pants? It was because they had me wearing this ridiculous outfit, and that's another thing. And that was a rib too, I think. But now everybody wears them, but I was, had a brand new pair of sneakers they gave me and this WrestleMania sweatshirt or whatever. But, but overall, it was really setting the stage of what these events would become, not just, show up and watch 3 hours of wrestling. It became, a destination to bring the family and stay for a few days and be a part, because they had all kinds of things going on. And it was just another way to create a revenue, but also create the hype around it. There was a lot more than just sitting in that arena and watching all that exciting action in the ring. It was great.
That's interesting you say that, because it's so hard to find video of any of these things, like the panels, because it wasn't part of the programming. It wasn't on Coliseum video. It wasn't, they would show you maybe a blip, like, oh, there it is. There's like a still shot of it. But when you're hosting these, are these Q&As, like when you're eating breakfast with a wrestler, like what is actually happening? Are we all just eating in quiet, or the fans are talking to the Bushwhackers as they're shoving pancakes down their throat?
No, mostly it would be they'd come in and they'd have, so if it was a breakfast, for example, people would come in and they'd eat, and then, one of us would go out and we'd work the crowd, and then it's, at the point where everybody was kind of done eating, whatever, we march, 6 or 7 of the guys out and have, the big table set up with microphones, like a press conference.
Yeah.
And, I'd go out and roam in the crowd with a microphone, which wasn't real easy because we didn't have the wireless mics really back then. So, it kind of, you set up a little area over, and they bring guys over, they stand in line, and then they could ask the question. But I just thought it was just so innovative. Ahead, like I said, ahead of its time of what we are seeing now, which is, pretty much
exactly that.
But as I've mentioned many times before, Vince, one thing that was brilliant about him and the team is that they brought in people that really knew how to advertise and promote big events. They didn't depend on, wrestling hacks that had been around forever promoting events where you went and made flyers up and spread them around the town or something. These guys were big time New York advertising agency experienced people that came in and said, hey, what about this? And Vince was all over it. I mean, he loved it. Really.
Yeah. No, so he gets a lot of credit for a lot of great things he did. And one of the things he's talking about roaming around, you get sent to the nosebleed section of the arena. You go all the way up and you interview these two guys. These two guys clearly have been drinking, because you're like, how's the show going? He's like, Jake's the best. Jake's the best. And you said, oh, I guess we're not going to get much out of that guy. And you just immediately get out of there. Again, how long does it take to get from the floor being licked by the Bushwhackers all the way to the top of the arena?
Well, it wasn't so much the transportation. I think it wasn't a real big arena. But when you mentioned about going in the nosebleed, and I'd done stuff like that before, and Vince loved it. And it's kind of like one of those things where you go, boy, that worked. Damn it. Because you never knew what was going to happen in that situation where, like you mentioned that guy that was, Jake's the best. Jake's the best. Jake's the best. You don't just go and just random some idiot, like you talk to people before just kind of, just say, okay, this guy will be good. You can tell after you have a little bit of a conversation, you say, hey, you want to say something? You want to come on? And this guy was seemed very coherent. I thought, okay, he's going to be good. And then I don't know if it was fright or freeze, and that's the only thing he could come out of his mouth.
That's it.
But then I'm like, thanks a lot, dude. I mean, I thought you were going to do one thing, and then you went somewhere else that is not helping. but the idea that you're up there and you're around that crowd, that it's not so much what people say. It's just people being brought in and felt like they're there, and then you're in there with them and getting that feel of what it's like to be sitting in those seats. That was my mission. And I
Okay.
think we always accomplished that. It was one of those things that really nothing can go wrong. I remember, a few other times where, you'd be there and this has always been true no matter what you're covering. But as soon as, they keep the lights down,
Oh yeah.
until it's time to do the shot, to do the hit. And then the lights come up and it's like the moth to flame. And people see it and it draws everybody's attention to it. And then you're hoping. And I remember they had a couple of security people up there
Oh,
because you don't know. You can't have people running in. You don't know who's around there. They could just
true.
jump into the shot or whatever. But you don't stand a chance when you've got 50 people that want to get in front of a camera. These two guys aren't going to stop them. And I remember there were a few times, and I'm not at this event, where we did that, and I would start doing it, and then suddenly you just see me just kind of like disappear. So that was always the variable out there. You didn't really know what was going to happen when it was live like that, but there was just an excitement to it that I loved doing that.
There,
I loved being out there. I loved when they gave me a time to go interview a celebrity in the crowd or whatever it was, because it really did. I felt brought people into it and gave them an idea of what it was like if you were actually there that day. While it was going on. And I think it was a really great part of it, other than just the backstage, interviews.
yeah, no, it added a whole different element. But you
Really
did
did.
mention that you're in the crowd right before Hogan and Savage, and you're like, let's do a poll, let's ask a poll, and that's when a couple of dudes just jump in and you get handsy. You're like, you push those dudes right out of the way, and I'm like, God damn it, Mooney, that's right, get those assholes out of the way. You need to get your shit in.
Yeah, I know how to get
I
people
loved
out
it.
of the way.
Yeah, do. That security wasn't doing their jobs, but you did interview, future President Donald Trump here, and I don't think he knows what to say when you're asking him questions, because when you start talking to him, he doesn't really know what to say. He just keeps saying it's an amazing show. I'm glad people are here. You ask about the casino and he's saying it's full. What was the atmosphere like for you? Like, are you prepped to ask him? Are you giving questions like, hey, make sure you mention the boardwalk. Make sure you mention this. What's going on before you talk to him?
No, never had it. Yeah, didn't get a chance to talk to him at all before. It was just go talk to him. You weren't going to get a chance to rehearse, and I don't think Donald Trump's ever rehearsed anything in his life. He just does it. And it's like, oh, it's a great event, the greatest ever. And so, but and I've mentioned this before. It still remains one of the worst live interviews I think I ever did, and probably somebody may argue, but it was. I was a wreck. I mean, I had the old earpiece thing, and it wasn't now I have a fitted one that's not going to pop out of my ear, but it was one of these things that they hand you, and it had the big hook on it that went over your ear, and then
it was huge.
It popped out, Yeah, so I couldn't hear the cue, and I'm like flustered, and I think I stumbled over his name, and just. Yeah, that it still remains. It's haunted me forever, and then the guy has to become president.
Right. So then you pop up randomly, constantly.
Pictures. Yeah. People say, if you didn't see the picture, there's the interview, and whenever I go to, do one of these signings, and some of them, it won't just be my headshot. They've got very creative over the years finding these images. So it'll be me with Randy Savage and all these different great shots, and then me and Donald Trump, and so it's just like that. Yeah, that's the one. And I've been, I'm like I said, oh my God, it's like I can't believe you're asking me this, but it is. And being an honest person, I have to say that was the worst that I ever did live. I got better. I definitely got better. But to have it happen with Donald Trump was something to stay with me forever. And the fact that the guy's all over the place and it always comes up, but it was definitely memorable, no question about it.
There you go, memorable. We'll keep it at that. But yeah, when I watched it, I'm like, man, like he's got his giant, like this was your earpiece.
Yeah.
Like, yep. So
Yeah,
here
right,
we are
right,
live. Like, why is it so big?
And it's like hanging. It's not even. It looks like it popped out, and I don't know what I'm doing. And yeah, and it's chaos. That it's very loud, and that thing was worthless. I couldn't hear what the hell was going on. I think that I don't even think that it was like through my ear. They told me to go. I think the camera guy, they probably like, tell him to talk now. Like.
Speak to him now.
But it's part of it. That's part of the excitement. That's why we do it. It's crazy. We're masochists. But I've always been proud of the fact that on all the things I've done in my career, whenever I had to stand up in front of a camera and that light went on, as they say, I went. I've never, I always found a way to dance and get through it. And that to me was always, that's your true test. That's what I always say to people, that you answer the call. When you get up there, you find a way. And I've spent my life, and still to this day, doing live television. It's crazy.
Well, I think the sardine smell from the Bushwhackers messed with your brain, and that's what happened with you and Donald Trump. That's just facts are facts. All right, folks. That's science, baby. It's science. Let's talk about the event, though, because before this event, there's actually counter programming going on with Ted Turner on TBS. They're trying to compete because we are in a war, folks. We are in a war of counter programming, with the Royal Rumble being invented to counter program other events. And now here we are. It's Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat on the other channel, free on TBS. How angry do you think Vince McMahon is? Because he has pulled this on Jim Crockett. Now someone is pulling this on him.
Well, I'm sure that Vince wasn't happy, but see, that's what juiced him. I mean, he loved the fight, and it wasn't just this WrestleMania. This whole thing had what's going on. There was this big fight because Turner had a big sway when it came to cable and the pay-per-view operators. He was a big player, so he did have some influence. And Vince cut rates to undermine him, and it was this corporate war. And I think that Vince, when it came down, he loved it. When that's what made him get up every day, is to beat people and to come out on top. And so I don't know if it was he had the anger. I think it was all right. Let's go. Let's see what we can do to beat them in this. And there was all kinds of stuff going on. Remember, they had the 3-hour special thing that in Binghamton that we did face to face. I think it was with where they had all of the guys there, and Vince hosted this thing, and that was to counter their program. Building up to this. So it wasn't just this one event. This was constant. And I think they had an 800 number, which you remember back then. That was a big thing that people would get on, and mom and dad would get the bill like, what the F?
Who did you call?
Yeah, $200. But I think they ran that during the event to call this 800 number and find out what the WrestleMania results are. So it was a war. It really was, that to see who would come out on top. And I think when it came right down to it, Vince loved it. He loved mixing it up and had I'm sure there were times when Turner might have gotten the best of him that day, and he was angered, but all that did was drive the guy even harder. So I think in the end of it, I think he enjoyed it. I think he enjoyed the war. I really do.
It's true. Because, yeah, the Royal Rumble's created, Survivor Series is created, and to counter-program, Jim Crockett and counter-program Ted Turner is eventually what time keep going on. So, yeah, I think Vince, you're right. I think he loves the war. Like when the Monday Night Wars ended, he might have been like, damn, well, that was fun. And who am I going to fight now? Just I guess the world. But yeah, you're right about that. They the WWF paid to have a 900 number play during Clash of the Champions, Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat, to make sure you could find out. Do you know who won the Dino Bravo match, or do you know who Mega Powers won that match? Like that is. I see it still today when you watch WWE or AEW. You see a commercial pop up. You're like, damn, I can't believe they're still doing this.
Well, and it's just that that's not that it was going to make a huge difference, but it was just another jab, that they did that, purposely did that during their event, and WCW did the same thing. It was back and forth to see who could get the best of the other, and look, like you said, because of all that, that's all these other great events were created. And if they wouldn't have had that, maybe we wouldn't be seeing all that. If they wouldn't have had that competition, wouldn't have taken professional wrestling to the heights that it eventually went to. So it was all really. I mean, when it came down to that competition, it was all for the benefit of professional wrestling, no doubt about it.
Yeah. And then another big thing with this event is Donald Trump. Obviously, it's Trump Plaza. We are at his location. WrestleMania 4 was also here, back-to-back arenas, which has never happened in the WWF at least. But yet here, we have this big argument about satellites because Vince, he wants to cut the satellites out because he's afraid if you go to a bar, there's 200 people in that bar. Okay, well, now they get to watch the event without having to pay for it. Trump's like, no. We need these satellite companies because I want people to see how great this place is. Come here. Come to the casino. Is that always a constant problem? I know the NFL has this issue where you have to buy a package to play games inside of a bar because, again, you're losing viewers if you jam-pack your place. Did you ever have this discussion with anyone about how, pirating is really just airing it for a bunch of people to watch?
Yeah, but there's two arguments there. You just laid it out. That yeah, sure. Like Vince wanted it to be paid for in every single home and not give it away where you could have venues where you could put a lot of people in.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the argument of the more people who see it, the more your product is seen and more people will want it. The guy next year might or the next pay-per-view is going to say, hey, man, I'm going to have my own pay-per-view party at my house. So, if they don't see it, they don't know it. They don't know the product. So there's the two arguments there. I think that Vince wanting to cut out those satellites, and this is my opinion back then, my feeling was, get more and more people to see it, and then they're going to want to pay for it down the road. It may not be an immediate what you want, but you're going to get more. You're going to have more people see it. Somebody may be in that bar didn't go there to see WrestleMania, but they've got it on, and they're like, wow, man, this is freaking awesome, man. I'm going to tell my friends how freaking awesome this is because I just caught it. So that was my feeling on it. Get as many people, because we were still in the infancy of it. So why not give it away? That's kind of basic business of, when you want to sell a product, well, give it to them where it's not hard to reach in the pocket for it. And so I didn't understand the logic of, no, we got to already, they're cutting you off. They're cutting off other people who could see it. I'm like, get as many people as you possibly can.
Yes.
So,
yes.
like I said, two different arguments for that. I was on the other side of it.
Years ago, I lived in Florida, and so I had to I didn't have pay-per-view in my college dorm, so I would go to Hooters and I would pay like $20 just to get in to watch WrestleMania 23. Like I remember that exactly because, again, they had a contract. They weren't just going to give this out. And so the WWE obviously has cracked down over the years, but at least then They were Trump was like, "Hey man, let's let's get everyone to see this because they'll see your product, they'll see my product. We're all making more money because more eyeballs on the product." So, but $1.7 million at the gate, beating WrestleMania 3. And I love the aesthetics of this event too, because you have these weird, like not Christmas lights, but they're these weird droopy lights that hang everywhere in the arena, and you don't really see that very often. I just thought it's a weird look. And the security. Here's a big question for you is I personally feel like when you have an entrance ramp that's like this small, the wrestler has to be in the middle and you have security all around them. It ruins, I don't know, the feeling of watching it because you're just seeing all these yellow shirts cover your wrestlers because fans are too close and they can grab you. Do you think wrestlers enjoy, I don't think being grabbed at, but they like the atmosphere of being closer or further away from fans?
Yeah, and there's a thought on that too. It was, and I know that I looking at the wide shots of the arena, and it looks small, and I think
Yeah.
because we've kind of gotten used to seeing these giant arena, almost stadium like events, and so it seemed you know kind of like a small TV taping in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when you've got that many people in a small area and they're just jammed and packed, it does create that feeling of, everybody wants to see this. As far as the security goes, I like that as far as because I
Yeah.
think it kind of created like boxing, when the heavyweights come out and then he's got the security team and people are on top. And it just shows, like how big of an event this is. And I think that had something to do with it too. The fact that Vince, wanted a ton of security guys. And it really was. It seemed like they just lined the whole way, right? And they're going along with Macho Man when he comes in, and so I like that. I think it really kind of created this excitement of a big fight, and I know that that's what they wanted to do there. And Trump had hosted many events like that, so I think that some of that advice came from him, telling Vince, because I'm sure that was a discussion of saying, God, these damn railings are so close to everybody. Like maybe they said, what, that's not such a bad thing because like it's like people they want to get them, they want to tear them apart or they want to, they want to pat them on the back.
Yeah.
So I think that I like that part of it. I really did. It created kind of this big fight feel. What was really interesting too, though, is why did Randy go to the ring first? I know we're going to get into that main event, but Randy was the champion in most big fights. You get the challenger in there, and then you have the champion come in. But the Hulkster had to have the entrance. So did it foretell what was ahead? I don't know, but I just think that when you're doing stuff like that, stick to the bait. Like do it. If it's going to be a big fight, make it that big fight. Make it that big. Do it the right way. So,
Interesting.
I love that. Don't you love that? Wouldn't you love that idea? Like Hulk's in there and he's, waiting for the Macho Man. He's like the challenger.
Yeah, he is the challenger. Yeah. Yeah, right.
He should have been.
I might have given it away.
Waiting on him. But anyway, I digress. We'll get into that.
Yes.
But as far as that whole security team thing, I was a big fan of it. I thought that was great. It created that big, that big fight feel for me.
Yeah, no, I love it. And the opening of this WrestleMania comes with sexy saxophone music. And then you see the mega powers explode. And I love it because so far all these WrestleManias have had themes to them. Bigger, badder, better. We have Ultimate Challenge later on, Stars and Stripes, mega powers explode. To me, it's like watching a movie. We have a narrative. What are we here for? We're here immediately to know the mega powers are going to explode. So I did like that part of it, but the starting of this is Rockin' Robin, who is the WWF Women's Champion at the time, singing the national anthem. So she's a champion, but she does not wrestle on the card. She sings because she's a rockin'. And Jesse Ventura buries her singing immediately and says she better stick to her day job.
Yeah. And I can't argue with him on that one.
No, but Jesse and throughout the commentary is hilarious.
You know, and I have to say, yes, and I think Gene Okerlund's version was better when he sang the anthem at WrestleMania. But that's another story, because he was a lounge singer, had an album. Well, we'll do the Gene.
When we do with the Gene, we'll have to play some music.
But yes. Anyway, yeah. You think they could? I mean, they should have her do a dark match. I think it was a big diss, but of course back then, female wrestling was not, what it is today by any stretch. And but I did think, I was like, come on, she's the champion, really. And when we went that far to have a champion, well, let her have a match. But no, just let her do the anthem. I hear she sings.
And that's the shocking part too. Is WrestleMania supposed to be about celebrities. We've had Bob Uecker. We've had so many different people over the years. Muhammad Ali, Liberace, Mr. T. We couldn't get someone to sing in the beginning. We got our own wrestler because we want to maybe pay someone else. Like, well, we have Rockin' Robin. She's a rocker, right? Like, well, no, that's just it's her gimmick, sir. That's her gimmick. I wouldn't send Jake to be a vet because he has a snake with him, but that's how we start this event off. And since we're talking about music, what were you saying?
Yes, Frank Sinatra was busy. Frank Sinatra was busy that day. It's the only reason that Robin had to do it.
He was busy still running that 5K run.
I don't understand why.
Another womp moment is
Mr. Fuji. I think how great would it have been if Mr. Fuji sang the national anthem? I mean, come on.
It could have been better. Poor Rockin' Robin. Still alive. Yeah. Still alive. Jake the Snake's sister, Sam Houston's sister. Yes, she's still around though. She's still around. Another want music moment is Run DMC coming out and singing the WrestleMania rap. Bro, I just did a Vince Russo, but bro, I watched that last night for the first time in forever. They should delete that. They should have never re-aired that. I'm sorry. Like, they've removed matches from Coliseum video releases. This should be removed from the archive. That's my personal opinion. And if you have them there, why don't you have them rap the national anthem or something?
Well, why not? It was just the wrong crowd, I think. I think
high rollers
trying to be hip. And he was trying, to be with it and to let people know, we're there. We're right. We know what's going on. We're finger on the pulse. But did not go over well. It was just it's a fart in church. I think it kind of was just like people were. It's weird because right. You listen to it was it wasn't boos or anything. It was just like no reaction. It was just kind of people. You could hear people talking and it was. I don't think people were quite ready for that.
No. And also another want moment here for me personally is Brother Love impersonating Roddy Piper. Morton Downey Jr. appears and him and Piper talk forever. Eventually it leads to a fire extinguisher moment and ha 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 ha. And not Robert Downey Jr., Morton Downey Jr., he was, the Jerry Springer of the time, having a talk show where he would say really crazy things, and that's why he's here, because he's saying crazy things. And WWF has the finger on the pulse of America right now, and he's part of it. Yeah. What'd you think of that segment? Because to me, it just felt like it went forever.
Gimmick, way too long. And Roddy was not a fan of that guy. When Roddy didn't like you, oof. And he didn't like Morton Downey Jr. I think he just thought he was a grifter, and he gave it to him pretty good, man. Especially with that, because Morton Downey Jr. The whole shtick with him was he was this chain smoker. He was always had a cigarette in his mouth,
blowing in his face too.
And so the whole thing was, and I think when he flicks a cigarette or something into Roddy, and then Roddy pulls out the fire extinguisher, and you watch that thing. He just really blasted him, and then blasted him again, and like in his face and between the legs, and yeah, okay, you want to do that, and you like you said, it was kind of like this timely thing. He was the you know a big shock television guy.
Yeah.
But come on, I mean, like it didn't have to be. What was it? 35 minutes long. It seemed like it was just.
I think you're right. I think it was longer than the main event.
Short. Yeah, I think it was much, but it seemed like it, and it was just another one of those dumb gimmick things. So yeah, okay, get it out of the way. I always thought that stuff was so stupid, but yeah.
I just think this WrestleMania
show that we could get somebody like that to come in, but it was the star power was not great for this one.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I was going to say over the years you've had so many people come in as celebrities for these WrestleManias, and they hit it right out of the park. They were amazing, and then this group of people, I feel like what you said, finger on the pulse. Oh, these people are popular. Let's bring them in. Yeah, but will they fit to what we're doing? Do they know what we're doing? Oh, no, they don't care. They just want to get paid, and they're happy to come for money. Like, oh, well, okay, then maybe the kids will like it. No, not a.
There's nothing more true than what the $1 Million Man says, that everybody has his price, and has been proven time and time again with the WWE that everybody does have their price.
Yes,
no question.
This is true. And
are you crazy? I would never. How much?
Oh,
when? Let me get that on the calendar.
Yeah. Oh, the check cleared. All right.
How dare you ask me to do such a thing? How much money?
Yeah. You want to flick cigarettes at Roddy Piper?
Yeah.
I'll be there. Don't you worry.
Everybody.
Yeah. This is very true. And the first matchup, Hercules versus King Haku, really nothing there, just a hoss fight. We get to the Twin Towers versus the Rockers, and I actually really love this match because this is the way that each team looked. You have the High Flyers, you have Powerhouses. According to rumors, Shawn Michaels was up till 4 a.m. the night before, drinking, slept a few hours, used energy pills in coffee and probably something else to perform in the ring. How common is it for wrestlers to just stay up all night drinking, partying, and then go out and have a great match?
Well, it was pretty damn common, especially back then. And we've talked about the Rockers before, and at that point in time, they were just they were brilliant in the ring, and they didn't miss a party. They would hard driving night after night after night. And I've said also before that I can't even begin to tell you how many times I was just amazed, and I wasn't at every TV taping or anything like that, but you would see these guys come in, and Shawn would have the sunglasses inside, and just like you could just tell. I mean, he was dragged, and a lot of these guys. But I was always just amazed that that they found a way to they go out there and still have these brilliant matches. They might come back and collapse, but when they were in that ring, they knew what their job was. You often think about with some of these people, and fortunately for Shawn, he survived it all and is healthy today. But you have to think back of, well, what if you would have just taken care of yourself a little more, without those nights and the drugs you put into your body, but maybe on the other hand of it, that's what made them survive. That's how they got through it. You kind of you self-medicate to be able to do what you were doing, getting on planes every day and finding gyms and getting something to eat, and then getting the hell beat out of you, and then trying to find a way to get to sleep. You go and drink, and then you have to have something that's going to help you sleep too. Then you got to get something to get you up.
Yeah.
So we can, talk about it all day. We weren't there. We didn't live that life, and they all found a way to do it. Some had more discipline. Some recognized early what it would do to their bodies. and stayed away from it, but many succumbed, and that is why the list of deceased wrestlers is so damn long. Um, that was a big price to pay. So yeah, the rumors of that I think were very true. I remember seeing him that day, and it was just like another one of those, like, oh boy. And I always thought, when it, like, come on, this is the biggest event of the year. You can't go to bed before midnight, maybe. But
Right.
that's that's how they did it. And like I said, they go in the ring and they have these tremendous matches. And this was one of the better ones. As we've discussed, the Rockers, they are one of the tag teams, and there are a few others that showed how well these streamlined tag teams that were built for speed and fantastic moves and high flying could actually step into a ring with two lumbering giants and have a really entertaining match. Uh, Sometimes you get tired of seeing, if you see two of these high flying kind of tag teams that go at it, and it's like flip, flip, boom, boom, bam, off top rope, whoa,
Yeah.
okay, flip, 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 flip. It's like, all right, yeah, I got it. But when you see, like, how these guys are going to match up, there's no way they can survive. One of those guys gets a hold of him, he's going to crush him like a grape. And you would see these things where they get him and they'd slip out, or they do this or a move, and you're like, oh wow, that was awesome. So that, those matches became very popular just for that reason, because you'd see that, that's not supposed to work in human science. When the big giant guy gets a hold of a little guy's got no shot. He's going to get done. No, that certainly wasn't the case with these guys, even though they end up on the losing end of this one. But you got to watch out for that Air Africa, I think it was, that move that wrapped it up. Which has gone down in history. Yes, you see it quite often. But I love those matches, and they were, as I said, one of those tag teams that put them in the ring with anybody, and they're going to make it entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
They did that.
And the Twin Towers, too, they, for the past 6 months, have been beating down Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man Randy Savage. So, and now getting a high-profile match at WrestleMania against the Rockers shows me, like, oh, the WWF really shows that they care about the Rockers, but they also care about the Twin Towers, because without them, as I said before in many podcasts, without them, you wouldn't have this built-up friction between Savage and Hogan, because you needed two wrestlers to be able to be equal to Hogan and Savage to make it seem like they were ever in peril. So I always enjoy the Twin Towers, and this is the down swirl of them, but still they had an amazing past 6 months. So good for them.
Yeah, but you think about it too, and I mentioned how agile the Rockers were and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to give credit to the Twin Towers.
Huge,
between Boss Man and Hakeem, those two guys, man, they could move for these giant guys. And even Hakeem, I don't think he gets credit for what he could do in there. Boss Man was really good, and so you've got to have, as you just said, you've got to have two other guys that can do it, but they've got to be able to have that talent to do it. You can't just have like Warlord and Barbarian that are basically just going to be brutes. These guys could move around. They could do stuff. Like I said before, that Bubba could do the splits. That guy was so freaking flexible. So you've got to have that talent to match it, and they did.
I love Boss Man. So I'll always say, I'll always give credit when credit's due. Big Boss Man deserves all the credit in the world. But Ted DiBiase versus Brutus, Beefcake's up next. The $1 Million Championship is not on the line as it would be years later with Virgil and, say, Ted fighting each other. But I do like the nod of $1 Million Man walking up to Donald Trump and shaking his hand. And both like, yeah, it's good to see you again. Oh, yeah, it's very good to see you as well. Like, I just like that little added element of what's going on here. People say it's a controversial finish because it's a double count-out finish. And you're here at WrestleMania, you kind of want, I don't know, you're paying money, you want to see an actual finish to certain matches, and, you decide what you want. But it's interesting that Beefcake now sliding into fighting Ted DiBiase, fighting Andre, because he's Hogan's friend. Is that, how do you think other wrestlers are feeling about this now, where you're seeing Beefcake is getting more than he was before, now that Hulk Hogan has more power than he ever had before.
Yeah, yes, I'm sure there was a lot of that, and that was something that Brutus endured his entire career there. That wasn't going to be avoided. There was no doubt about it that he did get favor because he was his close association with his pal the Hulkster, and he embraced it. Why not? You know that
Of course,
he's going to
I
get
would.
opportunities, but also you know Brutus was a good wrestler. I mean,
Yeah.
he wasn't like some lumbering idiot in there. I mean, he came up at the same time Terry did and worked his ass off, and he had some really good matches. And he did it, paid his dues, and went to Japan and did the whole thing and wrestled independently. And he could get it done in the ring, but there's no question that there were many others that were certainly on his level that could have done the same, taken advantage of the same opportunities that Brutus got. They just didn't happen to be best friends with Hulk Hogan.
Of course. And up next is the Bushwhackers versus the Fabulous Rougeaus. People have voted this the worst match in WrestleMania. I don't know why people hate the Bushwhackers so much. I like watching people being licked, headbutts, butts. I don't have a problem. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with Bushwhacker matches? Exactly. Come on down, bite my ass, punch me in the face, give me a headbutt, like send me home happy. Why do you think people get so angry at the Bushwhackers in in their matches? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, because it was so comical. It was comic relief, really. That like they had the battering ram that they would do. It was comic relief for those matches. It wasn't. You weren't going to see tacticians in there. It was going to be goofball stuff going on, kind of Three Stooges kind of thing. You always got that feeling from it. But the crowd loved him, and that was mostly, I think, for the kids. The kids loved them, and it's funny to think about if you knew the history of the Bushwhackers, and they were the sheep herders, and they were these two badass heels. I mean, they were just nasty, and people have often asked them, like, well, boy, when you came to the WWF? I mean, God, wasn't it awful that Vince McMahon turned you into this laughing stock tag team? And like, no way, mate. Like, are you kidding? It was the greatest thing that ever happened to us. I mean, it really was. That they forever. We've lost one of them, but they're still remembered as they could do appearances forever, and their merchandise. I'm sure they made a ton of money off their merchandise. So to them, it was the greatest thing that ever happened, and it was easy work. They never had to have these big, intense steel cage matches, barbed wire, whatever. They didn't have to do that anymore.
No.
So I think that the price for it, and they loved it, and they like being adored by fans and celebrated. So, but yeah, it was always a gimmick match. It was just comic relief to give the crowd a break and bring them out and have some fun.
Yeah. Dance. Come on, people. Come on. I don't understand the hate towards, but they do wrestle like 5 times, I think, in like 3 years. So that's a lot on pay-per-view when you only have 4, sometimes 3. So I get the anger towards that, but also, guys, it's okay. It's okay. It's Bushwhackers. We're not looking for
enough. I mean, come on. And you say, but you say there was a lot of heat on them. Yeah, there was, but I'll tell you that the majority loved the Bushwhackers. There was that the crowd would pop every time they came out. So yeah, I'm sure there were some purists and haters out there, but come on. They knew what they were doing. They embraced it, and the fans loved it.
Next up, Mr. Perfect versus the Blue Blazer. This is the debut of Mr. Perfect wearing his singlet that he would wear for the rest of his career. And I'm so happy because Mr. Perfect is one of the greatest characters of all time. I always will love Owen Hart. And Jesse the Body Ventura, who is a heel on commentary, says this is going to be the match that we should pay attention to. Like, he immediately is like, oh, I'm excited to watch this. And to me, that's great because if you do watch it, it is probably one of the best matches of the night. And for me, what'd you think of Mr. Perfect's look? Because before this, he's just wearing traditional random tights. Now he has the singlet. He has his actual look.
Yeah. No, I thought it was great because, it was more of that, real amateur wrestler kind of look. And Kurt had that. He had the body for it. Others would use that as well. It's like, I think the Steiner brothers wore the same kind of singlets that they did because they were, amateur wrestlers. And so I think, Kurt was a great amateur wrestler. And, but I just thought it was a good look for him. I always knew you have the trunks, and he had a good body. There was he could certainly just wear the trunks or whatever, but it was his own unique look. And you'd see sometimes where he'd like peel it off, and kind of push it. You do that, take the strap, and then it would be like that when he was like ready to really go at it. So yeah, it was a great look. And, this match was great, and Owen was a chance because, in order for you to get over to look good out there, you've got to have a partner that knows how to do it. And there was nobody that was better at that and selling than Kurt Hennig. There's no question about it that Kurt was great. So this was a really great opportunity for Owen. I'm sure he loved the fact that he would got to be at WrestleMania and in the ring with Kurt. And they did not let us down. It was just, and I remember people watching it back because we hadn't seen a whole lot of Owen, and so this was a big stage for him. And you've heard this before that the boys will say it's something if they're paying attention, and they would always they always had the monitors set up in back, and they'd have chairs where the boys could watch, and we had monitors all over the place. So that people backstage could see what was going on and when they were supposed to be somewhere. And I just remember that everybody kind of stopped and was just who could do it and was watching that match.
Oh, it's unbelievable. But what's even crazier is when I'm watching this again. This is the 5th match. There's 14 matches on this WrestleMania. I know it's WrestleMania. You want to get everyone on the card, but I'm sorry. Not everyone needs to be here for a match. And to me, when you think about it, I'm like, oh, why is, I love every one of these wrestlers, but like, why is Hercules fighting Haku in the beginning? Why is Bad News Brown fighting Duggan? Why is Mr. Perfect fighting the Blue Blazer? Like, Dino Bravo versus Ronnie Garvin. Like, why are some of these matches happening? Is it just, hey, you all got us here. You're all working hard on house shows. So we're going to give you this big WrestleMania payday. Is that really what this is?
No, I really don't think so. I mean, maybe that was some of it, but I think it was kind of this experimentation to see, what do people want? Do they want, 5 to 7, good, solid, long, 20 plus minute matches, or do you want to see, a lot of a big display of talent with matches that are not very long. Some of them were 3 minutes, some were 7, but it was clear early on. It was too much. And I'm sure that people voiced their opinion about that even before this event happened. But, once that train was on the track and all the cars were on that train was way too long. And you could feel it, there's people like, overload. And the matches weren't real great. So then you start losing it. You get to feel that crowd as it goes through the night. And it was just like, come on, let's get to it. And it was way too many matches. And even, I don't know what they could have done better with different talent. I mean, it was a talent that they had, and it just, none of it was really strong. There just weren't. Like you said, there were a few matches there, Kurt and Owen and Boss Man and Akeem and
Yeah.
uh,
Warrior and
Rockers.
Rude.
There were good matches.
Yeah.
Yes, but the other stuff was filler, and it was like, do you want to make this thing 3 hours long when people are just make it two? If it's make it good in two. So yeah, way too much.
Yeah. Well, I have no problem with it. I just think, why do you have so many matches? But we're going to plow through a few of these right now. Demolition tag team titles versus Powers of Pain. And Mr. Fuji, who I got to say, Mr. Fuji, he looked amazing. He runs a 5K in a suit and a hat and a cane and his dress shoes. And then he wrestles too. Like, to me, I've heard terrible things about this man, but I got to say, his physique, beautiful. He looked better than me than I do now. So,
Yeah. In his day, Mr. Fuji could get it done, man. It was legendary that the kicks and stuff that he could do, and he still, even when he was older, he could do that. He could get that leg up into your chin, which was pretty amazing. So you can imagine when he was younger and could really fly around that ring, he was legendary. But as far as when he was older, he wasn't going to be able to do a whole lot. But they got him involved in this whole turn with Demolition, and I think it worked. It was one of the other matches that I really enjoyed, and of course, I'm a big fan of Demolition. But yeah, it was it worked. That whole match worked for me. I just thought that storyline, it kind of came out of the turn was little, really just all of a sudden
out of nowhere.
And right. But I still think that that was one of the more entertaining matches of the evening.
Agreed. And again, Mr. Fuji, looking good, man. Looking good. Good for you. Up next, Dino Bravo versus Ronnie Garvin. Again, what are we doing here? Frenchie Martin gets stomped out by Ronnie Garvin in front row Trump. He's like, oh, yeah, I like this. Yeah, stomp that French guy out. Trump's having a time of his life. Like, when he watches Hogan, if you watch this back again, look at Trump the whole time during Hogan versus Savage. He's like it's like a kid on Christmas seeing his present come to life in front of him. Honestly, it's one of the funniest moments. But the Brainbusters versus the Strike Force is up next. This is where the Strike Force breaks up, and Jesse Ventura clearly gives it away because he says, well, the Strike Force hasn't teamed up in a long time together. Let's see how they do. Well, Rick Martel leaves Tito Santana by himself, and Brainbusters win. Brainbusters are former tag team champions. Strike Force is over, and we go off an amazing model run for Rick Martel. This is the beginning of my love for Rick the Model Martel. Strike Force to me was like the Young Stallions, just like a bunch of two young guys. Like, we're going to give 110%. And now we're going to get the model. Like, to me, this is a great step forward for Rick the Model Martel. I know we did a podcast about it, but how do you feel about the model character versus the version you're seeing here?
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. And that I was a big fan of Rick. And he fought really hard. I mean, we talked about it that, he wanted to be a heel. He felt that his run as a baby face was never going to get him anywhere. And he really had even contemplated, I'm out. I'll quit the business, or I'll go and wrestle independently and as a heel. I'll prove to them that I can do this. And walked away a couple of times where he just said, "No, I'm serious about this." And then they brought him back. Said, yeah, we'll do it. And then they didn't. They had we just got too much going on, but we're going to get to that. And then finally, he convinced them because he really was willing to walk away from it all and fought really, really hard to make it happen. And it was great to see finally, it just shows you the perseverance and his belief of what he could do and not wavering, like willing to risk it all. And it really did pay off. As you said, this would kind of launch that run that he would have as the model and, proved everybody wrong. All of those guys, Pat and Vince and, all those guys thought, he's a baby face. There's nothing else you can do about it. He's too good looking. He's, got that suave kind of demeanor to him or whatever. What the girls love him. He's just a baby face. And he's like, no, I'm not going to make any money. You're never going to put me up there with any real serious run as a babyface. It's not going to happen. And he stuck to it and saw it through. And forever, I don't know exactly how long it lasted, but that put that mark on his career forever. That's how people remember him. He had a great career otherwise outside of all that. But when you talk about Rick Martel, what do you remember? You remember the model. You remember the spray thing. You remember blinding Jake. You know the whole thing. And that was all on him. He did it. He stuck to it and wouldn't waver. And you got to, tremendous respect for what he did.
Yeah, agreed. They announced, though, that Hulk Hogan's going to star in No Holds Barred, the movie coming out in the summer of 1989. They cut back to Gorilla and Jesse Ventura, and Jesse Ventura has a meltdown on camera. He is screaming. This is no longer like Jesse Ventura, the TV persona. This is Jesse Ventura, the person who's angry at Hulk Hogan for stopping a union 4 years ago in the WWF. He is pissed off. He's yelling about how you're going to come into my territory, in my yard. If you want to come to Los Angeles, you'll be driving my limousine, not starring in movies. And Jesse walks off the screen. And Gorilla starts laughing a little bit like, I'm not sure what's happening here. Eventually, Jesse does come back. But the real heat of this, was there actually real heat with Jesse being upset that Hogan wanted to go do movies?
Well, yeah. I think, a lot of things as we've, a lot of these storylines, that's what makes the best ones is when you can't really tell the difference. Is that a shoot or work? And, as you mentioned, there was no love lost between Hulk Hogan and Jesse. Man, that was for real and with good reason. For as far as Jesse was concerned, and Hulk, Terry fully admitted it. When I heard about that union, I went straight to Vince because it was a threat to what I was doing. Very honest about that. And Jesse never forgave him for that. Here, Jesse, and you see this happen in professional sports all the time where, you're at one point, if you're at the top and you kind of forget where you came from. Jesse had been that guy who, languished and didn't get shots and was kind of at the mercy of these promoters and what these guys went through. Early on, at least with the WWF, Hulkster was getting, first class treatment everywhere he went. Flew first class, limousines, great hotels. He wasn't with the guys down at the bottom of the card who, were getting in rental cars, 4 of them, because they split the money. They'd have 3 to a room. Somebody was sleeping on the floor on a mattress. Stories of guys going into diners, ordering a cup of coffee and then eating crackers with ketchup on them. When you've lived that and done it for a long time, where every part of your meal, every time you do something, it's expensive. Those guys weren't covered for that. The only thing that the WWF covered was your flight. You were responsible for everything that you did from that point on. You paid for your meals, you paid for your hotel, you paid for your transportation between the towns that you were going to. And Jesse felt that, it wasn't fair. These guys needed to have some representation. And the only way they were going to do that is they bound together. And Hulk blew that up right away, and he never forgave him for it. So kind of a tirade there, but that's to make you understand why. And there were other things, the merchandise thing, Jesse saw that Hulk's getting the lion's share of all of it. And so, yeah, that was real life heat. So I think that was maybe more than a half shoot.
Yeah, no, he was pissed. Yeah, after watching, I was like, damn, even Gorilla, Gorilla just looked shocked. Like, okay, well, I'm just going to nervously smile here for a minute. Yeah, it didn't look very comfortable on camera there. But, moving on, Jake the Snake Roberts versus the Andre the Giant match is up next with Big John Studd, who won the 1989 Royal Rumble, but he doesn't wrestle here at WrestleMania. He's the special guest referee. Match ends in DQ. Jake wins. Why have Big John Studd win the Royal Rumble to not wrestle Andre at WrestleMania?
Well, probably because Big John Studd was afraid of Andre. Didn't he? That's well documented that Andre just, there's only one giant. There's only one giant, and it is me. And anybody who tries to come in and put their footprint in there, it's not going to happen. Mine's bigger. And so there was no love lost there between them. And I think that, they were probably brewing something, to be serious about it, that, you two giants is a kind of a given. You want to see them go at it. But come on, what's juicier here? Right? The whole angle with Jake and Andre and the snake. And come on, what do you want to see? What do you want to see more? Two giants banging on each other, or this thing that a snake that gave Andre a heart attack, and that's another one of those things too, where you've got. Come on, look at Jake. Jake was not the greatest physical specimen. What chance does he have against Andre the Giant?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know how cunning that Jake Roberts is. You know he's got something up his sleeve. You know he's going to do something. He's not, and he's so freaking, just arrogant about it. And he's, like he's not. There's no fear. So he's got something, so that to me, that was just, God, I can't wait. Throw in John Studd in there just for the spectacle of it. The two giants is who could he possibly? He's going to be against Andre. Andre's going to get screwed in this somehow.
It's a handicap match.
So he had a lot of elements working in that match. Yeah, but did he have to be there to make that a marquee match? No, not really.
No. Heart Foundation versus my favorite tag team, Rhythm and Blues, Honky Tonk Man and Greg Valentine. Super quick match. Because
Greg Valentine dyed his hair.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, folks, but Greg Valentine was boring to me. Just like Ronnie Garvin was boring to me. They might have been great talents and they might have been amazing and your favorite, but they're not mine. And so I'm going to stop there and just say this match was filler and that was it. Intercontinental title on the line. Rick Rude defeats Ultimate Warrior by Bobby Heenan holding on to Warrior's leg at the bottom. But after Warrior attacks Heenan, Heenan says he actually was injured by the Ultimate Warrior here, hurting his already worsened neck because he had neck issues. We've heard so many stories about Ultimate Warrior hurting people, but when you're hurting wrestlers, I guess that's one thing. But when you're hurting Bobby Heenan, the manager, that to me is a whole nother level of you're not protecting your opponents at all.
Well, come on. It was Bobby Heenan. So who was upset?
Bobby was upset with Warrior.
So, yeah. Well, it was, that was the thing that was brilliant about Bobby, that throw him into any situation and he made it work. So, it was a great matchup anyway. Rick Rude, man, that guy I thought was great in the ring. And people don't realize just how freaking tough that guy was. Not a really huge guy. He had a tremendous body, but it wasn't anywhere near the stature of Warrior. But who do you think is going to win that street fight? And did, by the way, they had a few altercations. But really, this is a great matchup. Then throw Heenan in there. It's a great mix.
True. People were interested in this because it's probably like the second biggest match on the card besides Hogan versus Macho Man, because Warrior is red hot, Rick Rude, amazing heel, Bobby Heenan's on fire as always. So I think it was a very shocking ending actually to see a babyface lose such a big high profile match at WrestleMania at the time. Now it happens all the time, but when it did, you're like, wow, I didn't Vegas odds did not have this going this way. So lost a lot of money as a child. But yeah, no, I thought it was a great match. And even Rick Rude winning the Intercontinental title, Jesse Ventura on commentary, he is so happy about this because now he's saying, I have all my champions. I got Rick Rude. I got Macho Man as my champion. Like, I'm feeling great. And even at the end of the night when Macho does lose, Jesse, the last line he kind of says is, he's like, well, Gorilla, you got Hogan and I got Rick Rude. Like he's just all about having Rick Rude as IC champion, which is, I thought was a great move to build towards SummerSlam, because they have a rematch where, Warrior picks up the win there. But still, good stuff. But we do have more filler. Bad News Brown versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah, and look how Rude. Yeah, look how Rude won that. He had to cheat. So there you have it. Bobby had to be that guy that cheat. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy that, though. Again, it helps Warrior look like he didn't actually lose because someone had to cheat to beat him. So that helps Rick Rude as a heel, helps Warrior keep his theme going. But two more matches before the main event. Match number 12, Bad News Brown versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
God, we still have more matches. Stop already, Steve. It can't be that many. There cannot be that possibly many matches. It cannot. Please make it stop.
Get in the time machine and tell yourself 1989 to stop this then, because we have to keep going. Red Rooster fights Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan already got beat up by Warrior. Now he gets to get beat up by Red Rooster. Match lasts 31 seconds. But we're moving on finally to the main event of the evening. It's a Mega Powers exploding. It's Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan. You brought it up earlier. Why does Macho Man come out first? Is it a heel tactic where he wants to show the world that he is number one, so he wants to come out first, get all the glory as a heel? Or is it Hulk Hogan wants to come out to get that pop, not being stolen by Savage?
Really, we need to have this discussion. To me, the better way to play it is that, he is the champion now. So he, here, this, you get the entrance, but didn't do it, just couldn't do it. And so and I think it diminished it in many ways because of that. I think that is, kind of helped, or did, I shouldn't say help, but it started the resentment of Hulk Hogan, that you have to have everything. Can't you just play it real, like make it seem like this, and then you've got to earn this thing back? To me, that would have been bigger. But it's like you already came in, so I was thinking, they're already kind of laying the groundwork here that guess who's going to win the match. Kind of like, he's going to be back on top again, and it kind of ruined it for me to think that way, even though I know. But I'm saying that I want you to create a reality. There may be a different, dimension, but create this so that I can go for that ride. I want to go for that ride. I want to feel like that, there was some doubt. There might have been a little doubt in Hulk Hogan's mind that, and all this, what it come down to. What was really great about it is look how long they had, Steve, to build this storyline. I mean, over a year, really. It was really almost over a year where you started that they built this thing. And, to me, it was one of the greatest, because you can't do that anymore. They don't do it anymore. It would be impossible to do it anymore, because thing is just everything moves. If you can get a month-long storyline, wow, that's tremendous. But just look how long, and I've heard Bruce talk about this too. Behind the scenes, that they laid this whole scenario out. They knew where this was going to climax. And so when we did the vignettes, and all the stuff they shot that went with this, they were already planning to be able to have these moments that they could go and look back on. Like when you see, like, when did this start happening between these two? Why is there so much animosity? Why does Randy, why did his relationship with Elizabeth just fracture so much? And it was all so well planned that they could go back, because they would say, a look, and they would make sure, Randy, with the, when the one time he had the nightstick, I think he took from the Boss Man, and Hulk Hogan turned his back to him, and he's, doing his thing with the crowd, and you can see Randy's got the nightstick, and it's like, it's ruined, it's like, like to wrap this thing across the back of that head of that big freaking yellow thing. and you could look back at those moments. Those were all planned, and that they could go back and say, let's go back, remember this. And so when you look back as far as, doing storylines in professional wrestling, this is one of the greatest because the planning that went into it to build it to that crescendo and then have it eventually, have it pay off was brilliant. And so that was a misstep, I thought. And it's a simple detail, but I felt like it just, we talked about with a big fight feel, and you stumbled on that because you wanted it to be that, you wanted that real, you wanted it to happen that. And when the payoff comes, yeah, oh my God, you know. So really, it is a master class as far as doing storyline, because I remember that how detailed it was, and when we would do, they shot many of those vignettes at the studio, and I remember Bruce and them talking, and Vince about this is what you're got to convey, this is what, because this is where we are in the storyline, and so this is where they really started to plan. Like it wasn't so much when they were scripting things, because the guys were still doing their, train of thought when they were doing that character. But they really, the idea of these detailed, long, storylines to get people where they were going to be. And some were shorter than others. But that's where that storytelling, that method of doing it was happening. And that was one of the classic ones, still lives way at the top of my list.
I agree with you. It happened in October of 1987 when the Mega Powers formed. And then you roll into April 2nd of 1989. You have had over a year of story building between friends who were originally together. Miss Elizabeth needed Hogan to save Savage from Honky Tonk Man and turning him babyface, and Hogan helped Savage win the world title at WrestleMania 4. Little beats at SummerSlam where we have glances, hugs, holding, hand touching. There's a lot of, Hogan, you're getting handsy with some guy's girl. Like, maybe you shouldn't be holding her hand. Maybe you shouldn't be picking her up or hugging her in front of her husband, that is. So there's a lot of, whose side do you want heading into this? Are you on the side of the Macho Man who is showing heel tendencies, but in reality, he's a man who's pissed off that another man won't stop lusting after his wife, even calling him the Luster instead of the Hulkster. So there's a lot of there. It's a lot there.
No question about it. And as I call them, like eyebrow raisers. There were so many times, you look back, and that's what I said, as they would, some of it was subtle. Right? It was just, Hulkster opening, pulling the rope up for Miss Elizabeth. You're like, why is he doing that? Because Randy, wouldn't do that, or what, right? And it was like, is he just being a really good guy, or is like, is he the Luster? Jesse
Luster.
And it was really well done. It really was that they had enough of those, and there were plenty. I mean, like we said, over a year, where there was these subtle things that the Hulkster would do that would be, you're thinking like, what if another man did that to my wife? I think I'd be a little annoyed at putting it lightly. Like, what are you doing? It's like, what are you talking about? Just do that for everybody, every woman that's, like opening the door for her or something like that. Like, what are you doing? What? It's completely innocent. And there's some people going, yeah, he's just being. There's other people like, oh man, he wants it. Yeah, he wants that. He wants a piece of that, So yeah, it was really well done. And as we learned, some of that stuff that Randy was thinking was actually true. And like he was, that's the way his mind was working. That he felt that the Hulkster was undermining him in real life. So. Yeah, blurred that line, that's for sure.
Yeah, heavy psychology in this one, but it's Macho Man comes out first, Miss Elizabeth comes out second to Macho Man's music, and then Hogan comes out next, and that's the whole point of this. Miss Elizabeth has said throughout the program she's not going to be in Macho Man's corner, she's not going to be in Hulk Hogan's corner, she's going to be in a neutral corner. So throughout the match, we have little moments of her leaving her corner to go check on each man. Well, Savage doesn't like this, and at one point grabs Miss Elizabeth by the chin with his hand, and he kind of suggests like he might punch her in the face. And then Earl Hebner or Dave Hebner, depending on which one got the plastic surgery, shows up and stops, starts yelling at Savage, like, hey, don't you touch her. Don't you touch her. Leave her alone. So that eventually, you have Hulk Hogan, big boot, leg drop. We got a winner. We have a new world champion, 3-time champion. Savage is pissed. He leaves. And Hogan must pose. And so he poses for an endless amount of time. And we go off the air with Gorilla saying, hey, well, got a new champion. Savage looks angry. And Jesse just says goodbye. And that's the last thing you hear at WrestleMania 5. All in all, I thought this is an interesting event. Mega Powers definitely is the marquee. The rest, possibly filler. And, of course, you being licked by the Bushwhackers is my main event. So that's just me personal.
Definitely my highlight of my life. Not many in the world can say that they were licked by a bushwhacker, and I am part of that club. So, it kind of, I tell you, it was not one of my favorite WrestleManias. It stands out to me because it was my first WrestleMania. And I mentioned that, I love being in the crowd. I thought I had a lot of fun at this event. It was nerve-wracking. I mentioned my interview with Trump, but at the same time, I loved being part of it. It was was a great experience for me as far as getting better. I learned a lot from that, and so overall, it was. I can't say it wasn't a great event for me, but at the same time, was it in history? Should it be looked at as one of the great WrestleManias? I can't really say that, but I thought that the main event was great. The Intercontinental matchup was good. I loved the Andre and Jake and Rockers and stuff. So there were some really good matches. Just like as we said, there was just too many of them. I think maybe it would have stood out to me overall as an event if there would have been, say, 7 or 8 matches. They didn't need 14. That's what kind of ruined it for me. It's just too much.
14 matches. Yeah, I agree. Mega Power sticks out as one of the best storylines ever in the WWF and WWE history. So up there with the best top 5 storylines of all time. But yeah, the event, 14 matches, way too many, my personal opinion. But I bet someone's going to say this is their favorite or this is the first event they ever watched. So I just want to say thanks for watching us talk about your favorite event or the event you hate the most on here in the Golden Era with Shawn, Mooney. I'm going to go rewatch you getting licked by the Bushwhackers right now. So I'm going to go do that. But all in all, thanks again for everyone enjoying us talking about this amazing event. He's Shawn Mooney. I'm Steve Fall. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
It's the golden age of WWE. Larger than life.